All right, we are live, y'all. Here we go this evening. Oh, that's right. I don't want to do that yet. Hold on a second. We're getting our Instagram up here. We're going to add our Instagram live here in a second. Oops. Give me 1 second here. If you're just tuning in, sorry, we're getting our getting our Instagram live feed going here, and hopefully that'll get moving. So Leah, it should be live now, or it should be going or loading. So just let me know if you're tuning in with us. Thanks for joining us for night 2 of Home Sellers Week. Tonight, the top 5 most stressful things about selling your house and how to avoid them. Excited for your comments and questions. Usually it takes a few minutes to get rolling here. Thank you, Leah. I see that. Awesome. So we're live on Instagram. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube again tonight. This will be recorded for the masses to see. And we're excited for our special guests. We're going to let people gather and such here. Usually takes us a few minutes to get rolling. Hopefully you caught our broadcast last night where we were talking about answering the question, when's the best time to list my home? And we had some great opinions from my pals Haley Westoff from Compass and Stephen Natow from Keller Williams One Chicago, sharing their thoughts about where the market's going and how things are going to look from an inventory standpoint this summer and later this year. All of us trying to, of course, use those crystal balls that we don't actually have, but we want to think we do. Nobody joining us just quite yet, but hopefully in a few minutes. Oh, we're starting to get some eyes on us there. Welcome if you're tuning in for night 2 of Home Sellers Week here with Scott Curcio Residential. I'm Scott. Hello. Top 5 most stressful things about selling a house and how to avoid them. That is our topic tonight. We have got a slew of very special guests that'll be joining us to talk specifically of those topics and share some of their experiences, including a couple recent clients of ours, and also be joined by one of our main home inspectors. Should be a really fun evening. So if you're tuning in here, be sure to like, comment, and share. We can see comments coming in through YouTube and Facebook Live. Instagram, Leah is monitoring those for us, and she will be putting those in the chat box so that I can respond to them as people tune in. So we will get moving here in a little bit with our first guest, but we'll just hang out for another minute. I feel like we need music in the background right here. I really should have had some entry music. That's what's missing. That's what's missing on this. But we'll have things getting give people a few more minutes to gather and such. And as you're tuning in right now, thanks for joining us. It's night 2 of Home Seller Week here. We're talking about the top 5 most stressful things about selling your house. We'll have a slew of special guests tonight. And looking forward to bringing you guys some more great content as we continue Home Sellers Week. Tomorrow night, we are talking about how do I choose the best offer to take on my house. Going to have a lot of different things there. And then Saturday morning will be our general Q&A, where we'll talk to some other industry experts and hear what they have to say about the market and where it's going and when you should sell and when you shouldn't sell and what have you. Make sure to drop your comments in the chat box. We can see them on either Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube Live, and then we'll get back. Send us questions. Happy to answer any of your specific questions this evening. And we'll get started with our first guest in just a minute here. So there you go. We're live and having a good time. And I'm making notes because that's what I do. Okay, so it is 7:05, and I want to keep us on here. Oh, Stephen, thank you for loving our status update today and watching us. Okay, so we've got 5 topics we're going to cover tonight. What we have deemed are the 5 most stressful things about selling a house and how to avoid them. Those include prepping your home for sale, the daunting task of pulling together all the information about your house and the age of mechanicals and documents and all that stuff, dealing with tenants if you've got a tenant in a property, things that come up in inspection, and the biggest piece, timing, and where do I go if I don't have a place to move to. So we're going to cover those 5 topics tonight, and we're going to start off with the preparation of your home for sale. And if you've worked with us or you've watched a lot of our videos, you will always hear me talk a lot about the power of staging and the time to prep it. And so I'm going to bring up my first guest, who's actually a long-term client of ours, but our most recent client, because we just sold a property for them. And we're going to talk about the importance of staging really briefly. So Chip, let me know if you're ready. Give me a thumbs up. Awesome. All right, we're going to do this and hopefully not blow up the internet. Shazam, it's working. Awesome. Can you hear us okay? There we are. Now I can hear you. Perfect.
Yes, Scott.
Welcome. Chip Davis, everyone. Good. You put your name in there. Good. People that don't have to do other titles always fit better with our little moniker there, so it looks really good. So your first up tonight in our things of most stressful things on and how to fix them. And I know when we were first listing your home, we didn't stage it at first. We kind of let the market speak to us. And then we did the staging, and I think it sold pretty quickly after we did that. So wanted you to share a little bit about your experience tonight.
Yeah, happy to. And you're right. When we first listed it, even though you recommended that we stage it, we chose not to. And the decision, in hindsight, was probably short-sighted, but it was about the cost. And staging our condo really helped it sell that much faster.
Yeah.
We thought the market was hot. It was. We didn't stage it, and we had a few bites here and there, but it didn't sell. And we ended up, I think, making the right decision, because after we did stage it and take all the new photos, et cetera, foot traffic picked up, and it sold pretty quickly after that.
Yeah. So, but you made a good point. We hear that a lot. People are like, "Oh, should I spend the money?" And I think one of the things that we started to talk about was kind of thinking it in terms of, take 1 month's carrying cost, and put that in. And if you could sell the house in, let's say, a month or 2 or 3 faster, and it's almost like a way to save the money that's to come, if you will.
And that's exactly right. It would have paid for itself in 5 or 6 weeks. for a mortgage and HOA. Mm-hmm.
Was there, and I actually thought the staging in your house looked really good too. I thought they did a really good job. I was like, oh, okay, that looks good. Especially the bedrooms. I don't know why I focused on that, but I just thought the bedrooms just looked so much more alive with furniture in it. And if I could, I wish I could figure out how to put a photo up. I'm gonna have to try and do a before and after. Maybe I'll do that in the chat or something. So.
Yeah, it was funny when my wife and I walked through the house after it had been staged. We were almost sad to sell it. It looks so good.
There you go. If you guys are tuning in right now, we just got a couple of new visitors coming in. We are talking tonight. It's our second night of Home Sellers Week, the top 5 most stressful things to selling your house. Right now, we're talking about the preparation of a home for sale, and specifically about staging and the difference that can make. One of our friends and past clients, Chip Davis, joining us, talking about his recent experience where we started out not staging, and then we did stage and got it sold quickly. So if you're sitting there, like, comment, share, chat us up, and send us your questions, and we'll be sure to answer them. Sorry, I have to do those little breaks every now and again when new people chime in, so that they hear us and comment in. So, good. What else? Anything else you learned as a first time seller with this process?
There's actually a lot less to do. It felt like we made the decisions up front where we did some new paint and put in some new floors on the first level. Yeah. We had the discussions around staging, but then after that, there really wasn't much for us to do compared to buying a property.
Yeah. So almost like you work up front, and then you kind of just sit and wait a little bit.
Exactly. And the upfront work was important. I remember speaking to you about what improvements, if any, to put into the home, and kind of going through that math of seeing, are we going to get the value back? If we paint the kitchen white and put in some new floors, are we going to see that value back? And I think that we did.
Yeah. Well, that's the hardest part, I think, is it's a little bit of a shot in the dark, right? Like, okay, this is what people want, so we should do it. But it's sometimes very hard to quantify on if you spend this, you get this. Sometimes it's you just spend this to sell and then realize your equity out. It's not so much like, if I do A and I spend $2,000, I'm going to get $2,000 more. It's no, you do A, so you sell, and then you get that $2,000 as part of what you're selling versus like it's making a lot more money. We get asked the question on like, well, if I do this, will it make me 4 times as much? It's like, no, it's just going to help your house sell versus not sell. So it's a question of how do I move my equity from that position into my pocket? And it's like, you do this or you do that. So,
right. One other thing I didn't understand fully before we decided to stage was that the furniture can stay for as long as it takes to sell your home.
Yeah,
I thought it was like a week to week or a month to month, but that was it made us feel a lot better.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it sold quickly, it's like, what if it doesn't? Are you going to be paying for this staging furniture forever?
Yeah. I'm writing notes down as people talk with us this week so that I have like a whole like list of like pieces, even though we're recording these. And that's an interesting one. Like, if it says, and some stagers don't. Some stagers will say it's for a month or it's for 2 months or what have you, and then you have to extend. So I think for us working with a stager that can kind of be like, it's coming in and just you tell me when it needs to come out, I think really makes it a lot more palatable for people too. It's not like, clock is ticking, better get out,
Exactly.
I'm going to make a note on that. I like that tip. So cool. Well, any other wisdom or any other things that you've learned that you wanted to share with folks?
Not so much. I wish we had staged from the first week. We probably would have sold this in 2020 instead of early 2021.
Yeah.
But I'm happy we ended up making the decision. And if we ever sell the house that we're in now, we'll definitely stage it.
You're not allowed to sell it for years. Like you have lots of years to go on that one. Good. Thanks so much for joining us, Chip. I really appreciate it. And we'll catch up with you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott.
Bye. Take care. All right, Chip Davis, one of our long-term clients and who recently sold a home. And give me 1 sec, y'all. This door is open. Sorry, forgot to shut the door in my office while I was doing this. Don't need extra noise from the house popping in. If you're just joining us, I see a couple new faces have joined in. It's home selling week this week. If you joined us last week, it was home buying week. Now it's night 2 of home selling week. We're tackling the 5 most stressful things about selling a home and giving you tips how to avoid them. And we just heard from a past client of ours who was sharing with us their story of not staging and then staging a house and how easy it was. And one of the things that Chip was mentioning, which I thought was really important, was the work that we do up front on a house and preparing it for sale. And that is kind of a theme around our 5 tips tonight, which is do the work up front and your experience is going to be much less stressful and much more along the lines of what you hope it will be. So that's a key piece of information that we'll be going through. And I think you'll probably hear tonight through the rest of our guests. In a minute, we're going to bring on one of our favorite inspectors, Jamie Dunsing from Dunsing Inspections. We're getting ready for you, Jamie, almost. And we'll keep going. If you're tuning in tonight, we are taking comments and questions. So feel free to throw those in our little chat window there, either if you're on Facebook Live or YouTube Live or Instagram, and we will happily get you some answers or address some other questions. So our first tip was dealing around spending the time and the energy to stage a home. And one of the questions I get asked a lot on any improvement that a seller that we ask them to make to move their home is, am I going to get this money back? Or more importantly, people say, well, how much more can I make if I do this? And it's not usually that. It's more of you're going to do this so that you can sell. You're going to do this to deliver to the market what the market wants and expects. And so that is always a key piece. I think a lot of times we get stuck in, well, will I sell? And in our last get Chip's case, they had a property that was vacant. So that was one where it's like, take 1 month's payment and put that into the house, right? In this case, put it into staging. Because if you spend $2,500 to stage that home and then it sells in a month versus 3 months, you've just now saved yourself 2 of the, you've just now saved yourself 2 of those payments. So that's a really good way to look at it, is think about your carrying costs on the home. Think about the money that you could save and put back in your pocket by getting it sold and realizing that equity. So that was number 1. The second thing we want to talk about is inspections. Oh, excuse me, guys, I'm hiccupy tonight. And specifically about what we see in inspections. So I am excited to bring on one of our main inspectors, Jamie Dunsing from Dunsing Inspections. Jamie, you ready? Give me a thumbs up. If you are, awesome. I'm going to bring him into the live stream. Oh, there we go. The magic of television. Here you are. How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. Happy Cinco de Mayo.
That's right. I know. I feel like I should have had a margarita. Instead, I have a Yeti with cold water. Like
water. There you go. It's okay.
To keep hydrated. Just vocal cords. All right. So we're talking inspections, obviously. And one of the reasons I wanted you to join us tonight was I know you've been doing this for a very long time, and maybe giving us some of what are some of the most common things that you see in home inspections, specifically with a line towards, oh my God, why didn't this person just fix this up front? Cause I feel like you see that so much. You're like, why didn't you just have your HVAC just serviced or tuned up before you did this inspection? Or I don't know, clear out your utility room that looks like it has been stuffed with things for the last 10 years. So curious to see some of the things that you see on a regular basis that probably cause sellers undue stress when they don't need to.
Yeah. Chip, what you were talking about with Chip is kind of do the front end work on things. So getting prepared for inspection stuff is definitely smart. One of the things that has come up, this has been around for 20 years now, is mold. If you need to walk around your house, if you're selling your house, and kind of take a critical look at what's happening in there. So certainly in the areas that you can see, I would think most people, if they see mold in their basement or something like that, they would probably take care of it. But attics, we get an awful lot of attics that people haven't been in 20 years, 10 years. We get up there, we see mold. We even see it occasionally when people have mold. They have taken care of a mold problem. They've had mold remediation. We get in there and they haven't been in that attic yet for another 10 years, and now there's new mold growing. So if you are physically able, or if you have someone that you can have do it, get a look in your attic to see if there's any mold or any other issues up there.
Do you see people doing, do you see a fair amount or any growth in people doing a pre-listing home inspection, or not so much?
It's certainly not a big part of our business. We do them, and it's in ebbs and flows. We will do them certain times of the year. We'll do them depending on the market. If it's a buyer's or seller's market, we'll be doing them more or less. One of the comments, it's a great segue there. One of the comments that we always tell people to consider with a pre-listing inspection is you can find out problems now and pay for them on a wholesale cost versus when you're in the middle of a real estate transaction, you're paying full retail and then some to make these problems go away. You're just throwing money at people to say, go away, fix it.
Well, because then too, and that's actually a good point. I hadn't thought of it that way. We think of it more of the, if there's a problem, you can fix it. But as well as I do, someone comes in and maybe the true cost of fixing something is, let's say, $3,000. But then they talk to Uncle Larry or Cousin Sally, or they called the Cadillac repair person of that problem, who told them it was going to be $12,000, and now you can't get off the hook for less than, let's say, 8 or 10.
Yep.
Whereas, so that's when you talk about that retail versus wholesale pricing. That's actually a really good point that I hadn't even really thought of in those terms of it's not just a question of sinking a deal. It's more of a question of, it's going to be cheaper for you to just do this than, what's going to happen. So
pre-sale is wholesale, post-sale is retail.
That's a good point. Oh, I like that. I'm going to write that down just that way. I have to write these little nuggets.
While you're writing that down, one of the other things that we're recommending, you mentioned having your heating system cleaned and checked. That's certainly worthwhile. Fireplaces have become a very expensive, very concerning item for people. So
tell us more about that.
So we do chimney scans. We can run a camera up a chimney and we find a lot of fireplaces with problems. So when those problems come about, a chimney lining job might be $5,000 to $6,000 minimum on most houses. So again, that gets into that wholesale and retail thing. If you have a chance to have that stuff looked at ahead of time, Maybe it's just a simple cleaning. You're not going to have somebody come in and find $6,000 worth of problems.
Yeah.
You don't want to be surprised. That's one that is kind of a non-negotiable because it's safety.
Yeah.
You don't want to get caught in that 6,000 plus price range.
Yeah. What else? Any other big ticket items you've been seeing a lot recently?
I actually wrote some notes. Let me put on. I'm getting old. I got to put the reading glasses back on. Take a critical look around your house. Look at the roof. So after rains and things like that, it is very smart to walk outside. I know most homeowners don't want to get on their roof, but you can certainly step back. And if you see something odd looking, you can call a roofing contractor, call a home inspector. They can come out and tell you, is that a big deal or not? It's kind of the things, what we're talking about here is the things that are out of sight, out of mind. So look at the areas, take a little bit of front end work like you discussed before. And have those things looked at.
Yeah, I feel like especially with the people that have been in, you mentioned the people that have been in their houses, haven't been up in the attic for 10 years. It's like, get yourself in there, you know. One of the things I see a lot of is, and I always have to remember to tell clients it is, if I walk into your utility room and there's like 3 years worth of dust on your water heater, it tells me you haven't been in there in a while. Like, and it immediately says to somebody, this wasn't maintained. You know, even if everything else was done, it's those, I can see it, you know. I mean, it's the same reason we tell people, like, put a new bead of caulk in your shower and your tub, like just make it look fresh, because people then see, oh, you know, like go through your sinks, your drain, like make sure your drains are running, you know. So we had one recently where I swear I was like, the drain was, we had to tell them as we were leaving, it's still like, it was the hall bath on their second floor. These people, it was my buyers, and like the tub was still halfway full when we were leaving. I mean, it was barely draining. It was like we had not been with the tub for like the last hour of the inspection. I was like, there's still a lot of water, and all I could think was like, do you use this tub? You have to. It's your hall bath. You got kids, like. So just so interesting. I'm like, fix that. Like, that's definitely going to come up, you know, like.
Home inspectors are there to find problems. Let's face it. Yeah. And if you can take away problems, obviously, but if you can have a professional come in and service the HVAC, service a water heater, like you're talking about with 3 inches of dust, it takes a lot of, my hackles go down, if you've heard that term. Right away I'm thinking, they've had somebody in. It's a lot less of a concern for me. So I mean, money on the front end.
There's one even thing that I just thought of too that I feel like we see a lot of, and it completely just, or my favorite, the windows that are painted shut. I'm like, make sure your windows and doors all open. I think we have to start sending people a little like, here's your go around your house list.
Definitely.
Because that one always makes me laugh. They're like, the windows are painted shut. I'm like, what? Like, didn't you know we were coming? Come on, people. You know,
it couldn't hurt to have a friend come over and kind of take a walk around your house. You learn to live. You know, your own house has its own odors and its own idiosyncrasies. Have a friend come over and kind of look around and go, "Ooh, what's that funky odor? Ooh, what's the peeling wallpaper?" That kind of stuff.
Well, that's a good point. Like, the friend that will like tell you if you shouldn't wear that outfit. Like, that's the friend you want.
Right. You know, the Progressive commercial with they'd say we have an ant problem, and it turns out it's their ants. She's going through the refrigerator. Expired. Bring that ant over.
Find that lady. She's who we want. She'll be amazing, I think. So, well, good. Well, any other points you think we should be mindful of here for our? I mean, I guess really for anybody watching, you know, buyer. I mean, and mostly seller side, but even home buyers, you know, like this, you know, things to watch for, just be wary of as they look to a new house purchase or new house sale.
Last thing I would say is water. We ask people on every inspection, what are your concerns? And water is kind of universally the problem. So if it's a roof leak, a wall leak, a window leak, a basement leak, a plumbing leak, take care of the water problems. That leads to bigger problems quickly.
Yeah. And I would imagine bigger concerns for people too. I mean, we see that, you know, it's like, oh, there could be this, you know, it's always the there could be. Everyone's afraid of like, I don't want to buy a lemon. So,
right.
And lastly, I guess, and you may or may not know this sometimes, but what is there? Do you see if there's any percentage of like what percentage of people like do their inspection that of and they go out, running away?
I don't. We've never been able to keep good records of it.
Well, because it's after you guys are out of the picture. So, you take off, you do your thing, and then we deal with the rest of it. So
we do have situations where somebody has us do an inspection, and then 2 weeks later you hear from them again, and we know that clearly the first deal fell through, but we don't keep numbers on it.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm going to have to start tracking that for my own. Just see what happens there. So.
A lot of that, Scott, depends on the market. In the current market, I'll bet you a lot of people are taking problems that they wouldn't normally take.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, I think a lot of times sellers too right now are like, I'm not going to do that for you. Whereas 2 years ago, they would have been like, yeah, I'm happy to play ball. And
absolutely. Yep.
We were having the conversation last night too, of like, we're starting to see a little bit of that point where I feel like the buyers are pushing back a little bit on the sellers, and I think, a couple months, so many months of insanity, they're going, no, I'm not going to give you all that. I'm not going to let you get away with that. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes the rest of the year, and I think a lot of that often comes down to inspections, and what they're looking at. So, well, good. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. Always good to see you, and we'll see you later. We'll recap some of those points. Thanks, Jamie Dunsing from Dunsing Inspections. Have a good night. Bye. All right, we're moving right along here tonight, y'all. Night 2 of Home Seller Week. We just had on Jamie Dunsing, who's one of our main inspectors. He's from Dunsing Inspections, and had some really good points for folks that are thinking about selling a house. And if you've been in place for a long time, like if you've lived in your house 10 years, 20 years, and you obviously haven't had it inspected in that time, I think a pre-market home inspection is a really, really good idea. Because, and Jamie put it really well, and I've never heard it said this way before, I think it's brilliant, is tackle something pre-sale and you pay the wholesale cost, tackle something post-sale and it's the retail cost. And we see that so often, that if there's something that comes up front that you can fix, you are in control then. When it comes up after the inspection, you're not as much in control. If you're joining us right now, by the way, I see a couple new faces that joined in. It's night 2 of Home Seller Week. We're talking about the 5 most stressful things about selling your house and how to avoid them. We talked a little bit about staging and how that can improve your speed to sale and also make for an easier sale. And we just finished up with our inspector, Jamie Dunsing, talking about pre-listing home inspections and also what he's seeing in terms of like the major concerns on home inspections by buyers these days. A couple of things that always came up. Roof always comes up. What else? I'm looking back at my notes. People always asking about water. But the one thing that he mentioned that was really important was, he said, take a walk around your house, or better yet, bring a friend over, and not the friend that's always going to tell you you look cute in that outfit, even when you don't. The person that will always be honest with you. Have them walk around the house. What do they see? Just be nitpicky, right? Like, is all your little things. Are all your mechanicals in your utility room, are they dusted off the top? It tells people that you took care of stuff. Also, clear out your utility room. People are going to need to be in there. Go around, open all your windows, test all your windows and doors. Do they all open? If some of them are stuck, WD-40 them, get them moving. That way, when the inspector comes in, things are going, there's no problems. A lot of times sellers, I find, are surprised. And a lot of what we're talking about tonight is how to make stuff happen up front before you go to the market, which means once you're on the market, all you do is worry about selling and moving. 2 things you care about. Everything else just calms down. If you've got questions, you have some specific things you want to go over tonight, you can comment here. We're tracking comments on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube Live, and we're happy to get back to you or answer them, or give us a wave, say hello, let us know that you're watching. Because I can see you're watching. Like, comment, share. And these recordings will be on my Facebook business page, which is just Scott Curcio Real Estate, for probably forever. So you can rewatch to your heart's content. Need a little sip of water. Anyway, what else on inspections? And so another key thing that we hear a lot about is potential mold, especially in attics. So if you haven't been in your attic in a while, if you haven't had your furnace and your central air conditioner or your boiler tuned up in a couple of years, get that done as part of going to market. Just do it. All the stuff you've been meaning to do and you haven't done, do it. Even like you got right now, the weather's breaking, perfect time. Paint your front stairs that need some work, right? Like have that stuff just done if you can. The more things you do, the easier you're going to go through the home inspection contingency period, and you're not going to have a lot of things come up. So some little points there, some important little tips from our team and our folks to you. Another thing that always comes up that we always work with our clients on is getting together all of your documents, all of the ages of everything in your house. When did you last do the roof? Where's the copy of the receipt? So first, if you're listening here and you're someone that owns a property, save your receipts or keep a file, keep a Word document on your Dropbox, put somewhere where you're not going to lose it, and keep records of at least the years when you did everything. When did you put your new washer in, right? When's last time you had your brickwork tuck pointed? I repainted the stairs in 2019. Write it down, because I tell you, you will forget the year you did it, because I know, because I forget. So write it down. Keep watch of those things. You paint your house, keep the paint color. What paint color do you use? What brand? Keep it, because you will need it down the line. So those are just really important. One of the things I really think are just so key is just to keep track of all that stuff, because when I come calling, or more importantly, my operations manager, Leah, who's going to join us in a few minutes, we're going to want to know all that stuff. And why? Because a buyer is going to want to know that information about your house. So if you have that information, it leads to a quicker contract, a quicker sale. Versus us having to come to you and say, hey, what's that information? Can you get it for me? And if you live in a condominium or a townhouse or some other association, pulling all of your condominium documents and your association documents together, your meeting minutes, your budgets, what have you, is so important, because that is something that needs to be delivered to a buyer essentially right away when you go to contract, but also it needs to be read by me, so I know everything about what's going on in your building, and I can speak like an expert, and we can calm potential fears from buyers. So I'm going to be bringing on as our next guest, Leah Shields, who's our team's operations manager, and she deals with all of this with all of our clients, and she's going to share some stories about why this is important, and we'll have a little chat. So Leah, let me know if you're ready. Thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, bringing her into the chat. Hello.
Hello.
I haven't seen you in 3 minutes, so.
I know.
So Leah Shields is our operations manager, kind of holds our ship together, and is the one that works with all of our clients on getting all of that information together. And so that's another way to really pare down your stress, is to work on getting all this stuff together. And you can talk much more eloquently about why that's important.
As you mentioned, and as you said, the theme of this is just being prepared in advance. Because part of the reason we want to get those condo documents and get those age of mechanicals and the age of the roof and when was the building last sealed, the reason we want to get those things is the buyer's going to ask. Everything that we're asking for is because the buyer has asked us before. Like we know that they're going to reach out about those things, and we want to be able to answer those questions quickly so that it prevents a lot of back and forth as well. So that way, when a buyer, 3 buyers, 4 buyers, whatever, come to us and say, well, how old is the HVAC? We already know the answer. We don't have to go running to you. And so it just makes things a lot quicker, and it makes us be able to look better too to a buyer, because it shows that we're prepared and that we're ready to go. So it's really just getting those things up front so that we can answer all those buyer questions quickly.
Well, and I think we also tend to see that when a buyer wants that answer, they want it like that day. They want it now. They don't want to wait for, however long to get it. So
yeah, that's exactly it. They don't want to wait, because they're looking at other properties.
Yeah.
So if we have the same question for other properties and that other property got to them quicker, who knows if that's, what made them jump.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to be quick and responsive with that.
What are some of the, I guess, the biggest challenges that you see in getting that information from sellers? Or what's the biggest hold back for people being able to get it?
I think the hardest part is the condo docs. That's something that we tend to run into issues with frequently, whether it's a self-managed building or it's a bigger managed building. Condo docs kind of tend to be a sticking point, which, as you mentioned, you like to review those. And the reason we like to review those is because there may be something that's really important there that a buyer's looking for, that we want to be able to tell them up front. Like, what if it's a no smoking building? That's an important thing that we want to have listed up front, because that may be important to a buyer. And so the condo docs, I would just say, if you're thinking about selling, condo docs are something you should get started on right away.
They're working now.
Yes. Even if you want to sell 2 years from now, just start working now.
Well, because we also see, a lot of the associations now have gone to some type of managed platform. Yeah. And so a lot of times they come and they say, well, you have to request it through, insert the name of third party right here, HomeWise, Condo Search, what have you. And any owner is allowed to get that information. They don't need to pay for it, right? So if you're going to sell your house in a couple months and you could go and say, hey, can I get a copy of the condo budget? I don't have it. But also, as if you're an owner in an association, when that stuff comes in, save it. Always save it. Like, meeting minutes get posted, save it, because it just saves so much. And just put it in a folder, put it on your cloud, on your Dropbox, whatever. It makes it so much easier when we have that all, because a lot of times, as you're always fighting for stuff, and even fighting for information sometimes. I mean, I see when you're having the challenge of like even getting answers on like what percentage of the building is rental. And sometimes they're like, we can't answer that. Why can't you answer that for me?
Right. I mean, that's a difficult part. And so I think the other thing is, make sure you know who is the contact for your board or your property management. Make sure you have that contact information. And it doesn't hurt to do a little introduction. If you're going to sell, let them know, hey, I'm going to be selling and my realtor is going to be reaching out. Please give them all the information that they're asking for, because they're doing it to help me. Because in the end, those management companies, if you have one, they work for you. So they should be providing this information to help you sell your property. So definitely use that to your advantage.
And I think that's what, we come up on that on a lot of these things where it's like, just give us the information. Like, we're not trying to circumvent paying for the resale disclosure. We are going to pay for it, but we need this little piece right now, please, before we can do that. So,
right. That's exactly it. We need the information because, again, everything we're asking for is because a buyer is going to ask about it. And we want to be able to answer that.
And we don't want there to be surprises later. Again, this is all about how to avoid stress. If you have all that information up front and we have all those answers, we won't then be up against, oh my gosh, the building's talking about a special assessment. What is that? Or, oh, the roof is 20 years old. Mr. Buyer, I didn't know it was 20 years old, So real quick, I want to interrupt. If you're joining us right now, I see a couple new faces popped on. Thanks for coming to it's night 2 of home buying week or home selling week. I don't remember what's going on. It's a long week. It's every day felt like Monday to me. And tonight's topic is the top 5 most stressful things about selling a house and how to avoid them. We're talking with our operations manager, Leah Shields, right now about the importance of documentation, be it the ages of your mechanicals in your house, or if you're in an association, getting all the documents together and having that available for people, because having that information up front avoids problems later. Because if we learn something now that's going to be a problem for a potential buyer, we can find the answer or the solution, so that instead of delivering them, here's some bad news, or here's a meeting minute that talks about something negative, we can be like, this is the next step or the follow through on that. So we can say, here's A, but here's also B. Now you see how they work in tandem. And again, we don't want a deal to fall apart. So with that's stressful. So if we get the information up front that stops the deal from falling apart, we just reduce the stress. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, is if we have all the information up front, we can help be an advocate for you and read those things and figure out the best way to present it to a buyer. If there is something that's tricky, if there is something that maybe isn't going to look so great, how can we spin it and help you sell your property? So I think that's the most important, is like, we're here to help you, and getting those documents to us from the beginning is going to help us do that.
Right. Well, and I think that's it. It's to help. Like that's the whole thing. Help, less stress. So anything else that you want to add on the search and the ending search for documents to get a sale going?
No, just provide them. That's all. I just ask that you provide them. As somebody who chases documents every single day, just, be responsive and be helpful. And if you don't know, like, I'm here to help. As Scott mentioned, I'm here to help you get them. So just let us know how we can do that for you.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will thank you for your time, and I will send you back to the green room. Karen, we're going to bring you on in a little bit. I'm just going to recap a couple of things. So thanks for everybody that's been joining us so far tonight. Feel free to, excuse me as I take a little sippy loo. If you're just joining us, we're live tonight, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube Live. It is our second night of our Home Sellers Week, coming off of last week's Successful Home Buyers Week. So hopefully we're delivering you a lot of great content tonight. We're giving you tips to avoid stresses. 5 most stressful things about selling your house. We've already talked about preparing it for sale and staging. We've talked about inspections and what to expect with those, and talking about pre-listing inspections. We just finished up talking with our operations manager, Leah, about documentation, getting the ages of all your mechanicals, your windows, your service records, and specifically all of your when it comes to your condo docs, if you're in an association, and having that. And the reason being, those are all things that can create stress down the line. If you have all that stuff up front, so you can give people the whole scope of things, you're going to experience much less stress. So as you're watching tonight, like, comment, share, definitely let us know. I love that. Leah is feeding me comments from our Instagram, because Instagram doesn't, we're using a platform tonight called StreamYard, which pushes our live stream out to all these different venues, Facebook, YouTube, and it'll also feed it to Instagram, but it's kind of a workaround. So I can't see the comments, but Leah is also sitting behind the scenes and monitoring those for me. So I'm just going to tell her to tell somebody thank you for that comment. But I can see your comments from Facebook and YouTube Live in here. So if you're watching, please comment, please like it, please share. We are going to bring up here in a minute another recent client of ours who recently sold a home, and we're going to talk a little bit about timing. I think one of the biggest questions we've had this year from our sellers is, Scott, what do I do if I don't know where I'm going yet? And kudos to all of our sellers that have realized the importance sometimes of, like, you have to get phase 1 done. We have a lot of clients this year who are selling a property and then buying a property, but they are intertwined. They have to sell to buy. This is a market where getting a home sale contingency, meaning, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I want to buy your house, but I got to sell my house first. That's not happening. It is very, very, very difficult to get that accepted. And usually it's on a house that might be a little overpriced or has something wrong with it. So you don't want to have to be in that situation. So a lot of our sellers have bitten the bullet, so to speak, and said, you know what? I need to do this. I need to do the sale first. And, trying to look for maybe a 60-day closing to maybe bridge that gap to find a new place, or understanding that you may need to go into short-term housing or a rental. Maybe you're signing a year lease knowing, okay, I'm going to eventually break that or talk to my landlord, or maybe I've negotiated up front, like an out clause if something happens. So the timing is, I think, one of the biggest stressors for people. Now, we've got tips on that. A lot of times we'll put a note for buyers that, hey, the seller requests 60 days for closing, which is about kind of the longest that we really see on them, to buy you some time. But you also got to be comfortable that you're going to live a little bit in the gray area and maybe in the unknown. And maybe it works out, or maybe it doesn't, and you got to find that in between spots. So Karen, let me know if you're ready. Give me a thumbs up if you are, and I can bring you on. So perfect. So we're going to bring on one of our favorite clients from this year, Karen Setz, who's going to join us here. And she recently sold her house and is in an in-between spot. So she can talk a little bit about maybe that, and how you're managing that, and how you got your mind around that of, like, I'm going to be sitting in a hotel for a while.
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. You're good.
All right. So we've got good internet here at the Residence Inn at O'Hare. Yeah. So my temporary home away from home for 2 weeks, and then we moved to an Airbnb and hopefully move into our new home. To your point, you have to remove as many barriers as possible now when you're looking to buy, and look at different, just accept that it's not necessarily going to go the way that you want it to. It's not going to be the fairy tale, if you will. I'm going to sell it and I'm going to move into my new home. What can you afford to do? I'm at a hotel right now. I'm using my Marriott points because before the pandemic, I traveled a ton. And so I've got all these points. And so we're able to stay here for no money. And then we're moving to an Airbnb. I did some research in terms of their short-term apartments that you can look into. One specifically actually finally called me back today, is called the Pavilion. Yeah, I was like, yeah, thanks so much. But seriously, if someone's looking, they told me, I asked them a bunch of questions today because I knew we were talking tonight. If someone's looking, I've got this woman's name. Let Scott know. I can share her name. They have, they're not furnished anymore. They're short term, but they do less than 3 months, which is a big deal. Like 3 months was a big barrier for us, where the short terms were a minimum of 3 months.
Interesting.
And once we knew that we had found something to buy, that 3 months was too much. So these guys are saying that they'll do short term, unfurnished, but they have a relationship with court for like furniture rental and stuff. And I liked it because when we started down this journey, one of the things that Ken did with us was trying to get a long-term lease, like a year, with an agreement that said, you know, hey, with 60 days notice, we can leave and we'll pay a penalty. And landlords don't like this. So one of our deals went through. Their loss because we found a place we would have just paid the money and never lived there. But anyways, this Pavilion place I really liked because it's a big complex and they were super agreeable about.
Where are they located?
They're out here, somewhere like Des Plaines, I think. Yeah, by O'Hare. And again, the original person that I was in contact with didn't call me, but this woman called me today and I was super direct with her and she seemed really apologetic and wanted to help. And so I took her name and number and I can share that with you, Scott. But I guess the long answer to your question is we can't have the contingency. We have to just kind of go with the flow. And quite honestly, if my current situation falls through, I'm going to have to shift gears again. But the end game for us and probably everybody here is to find that place that, you know, where you want to be, that place that you love, and making these compromises. Is that really getting you where you want to go? And so I'm hoping that the short-term pain and trying to be really flexible, and it's stressful, don't get me wrong, but trying to be really flexible is going to get us to that place that we love.
Yeah, it's like that, the short-term pain for long-term gain or something, or however you want to. I'm sure that was the sports.
Especially during COVID. I mean, even with the vaccinations and everything, it's really weird. You know, I'm in this hotel for the first time in over a year, and it's very nerve-wracking, to be honest. But
2 more weeks, and then you're into an Airbnb, and then a little bit more, hopefully. So,
but that, you know, that happens, and this is allowing us to potentially get the place that we really love. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's a good point of like being flexible and your point, removing as many barriers, which is really the key. I mean, really one of the key things this year is if you have to take as many like objections for a seller saying yes to you when you're on the buy side as possible, to be like, please take my money, please. And I like your comment of like accepting that it won't go the way that you want it to. Being really mindful.
Well,
of
and
that.
on the sales side, when you're selling, if you're giving the buyer an opportunity to do it their way, meaning, when we negotiated my sale, I got exactly what we wanted.
Yeah.
And part of that was being really agreeable and flexible with they had a really short time frame.
Yeah.
Like 60 days wasn't an option for them. They would have had to walk away.
Yeah, that's right. They were like, no, this was like, they were like, this is the last day we can do. We're like, okay, we're going to have to just make it work,
Yeah. So in order to, get them their dream home, we were, agreeable to be flexible. Now do this again in like 6 weeks and let's see where I'm at. No, I'm just kidding.
I think you'll be fine in 6 weeks. We just got to get there,
We'll be good. We're all good.
The timing part is, I think of all these things we've been talking about, the timing part is the most stressful, because you are going to you have to live in the gray area for a time. And for some people that's really easy. And for some people that's really difficult. And then for the majority of us, for somewhere in the middle, where it's like, there's kind of that there is that kind of underlying stress, even when you don't think it's stressful. So it's like, almost like if you can, whatever you can do to move as much of that weight off, you're in a better spot then, so.
Well, when I was thinking about it today, if you still own your home and you're looking in the market, like, oh, I like that house. You said this when I first came on. It was like, if you have to sell to buy, no offense or anything, don't even put in an offer at this point. I put in an offer the day I saw the place.
Yeah.
And the offer was okie doke, whatever you want, so unfortunately, if you want to sell, this is the time to sell. You're going to make really good money on what you own right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I think we're seeing a lot of people, they're like, let's take advantage. And maybe I don't know what the next step is, but let me at least do this. And this is done. And then, you think, to your point, it's true. I had a client earlier today who said, they already had multiple offers. And she's like, she doesn't have to write with a home sale contingency. She's like, could I write that way? And I said, they already have people that aren't. Like, we can write it, but I kind of feel like it's a waste of time. Like, you hate to say that, but it's like, if there was ever a market where you're like, I can say something definitively, I'm like, I can say that right now. It's like, you just can't do it. Or a home close contingent, different story. Meaning, you got your home under contract and you're into the process. That's a different story. That's a lot more palatable. But I want to wait for you to go find a buyer. If I got 2 other people, no, thank you. So,
no, you're better. Honestly, you're better off doing that rental thing as much as you don't want to, being an owner, going back to being a renter.
Yeah.
You've got to be in a position where, for me, the place that we saw that we fell in love with was pre-market. And it was the one day it was open.
Yep.
And that one of the reasons why we got it was because we had no place to go. We had already sold our other place, or like whatever. At least that gave us it gave us a finite time frame for what we needed for that gray area.
Yeah. Well, good.
But before I go, I do want to plug Ken, because I know we're talking about selling, but I do want to plug Ken because he is so, so helpful, not just helping you find a new place, but helping you find a rental, negotiating with the owners and the other realtors. Look at your emails from him. They come in at like 7 o'clock in the morning, grab some coffee, check out those pre-market listings, take advantage of that and of everything that these guys offer. They say I'm their favorite customer, but these guys, I was scared to sell because I didn't know what I was doing. And
I think that's most people this year.
I was so scared. And you guys have taken great care of me. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Just a few more weeks, and then it's welcome home time. So
exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it, especially with your move. Karen, if whoever's watching, like Karen was moving on, so he goes like, "Hey, do you want to do this thing?"
It was like the day I moved, I think.
But I was like, she'd be so good to talk about this. And then you're like, okay, I'll do it. Okay, great, perfect. Throw it on the schedule tonight. So thank you for doing that. I'm going to let you go back to your evening, and we'll get ready to wrap up our night. So I'll see you soon. Good night.
Yeah.
Oh, I cut her off. Sorry, I cut you off before you were as you're saying bye. Sorry about that. Anyway, great guests tonight. We're almost to the end of our broadcast, but what a great night. And I think there's been some really great tips. It's been our top 5 most, sorry, I keep looking over there because that's where my little reader is about what our topic is, because I keep wanting to make sure I don't say it wrong for you guys tonight. So thanks to all those people that have tuned in so far, that have liked, comment, shared. Please keep doing it. We're here for 5 more minutes. So we've had 4 really great tips, and I'm going to hit a 5th one in a minute. So far, we've talked about prepping a home for sale, and the importance of prepping it, but also staging it, and how that can really decrease your cost, decrease your market time. And a key piece that a lot of my broker friends and I have been talking about is, there's always, oh, should I sell it vacant, put furniture in? Here's a key reason, and a very important reason to think about staging. Give someone a reason to sit down. And why is that? Because when people sit down, they relax and they absorb your home, and they feel like for just a brief moment it's theirs. If I can get them, and our team can get them to sit down, we're halfway there with them as a real prospective buyer for home. So think about that. There's a bigger reason other than just, oh, it looks better. It feels better, and it gives them a chance to sit. What's it like to live here? You can't do that if it's vacant. There ain't nowhere to sit. So think about that. So that was one. Again, doing this work up front. A big portion about tonight was do the work up front so you don't have to come back and do it later, and it saves your stress there. So that was one. 2, Jamie Dunsing from Dunsing Inspections joined us to talk about home inspection specifically. Not that you need to do a pre-listing home inspection, but if you've been in your house for a long time, not a bad idea. But he had a great recommendation. Get a friend, and the friend that will tell you your house smells, like, right, the person that's going to be really honest with you, have them walk through your house. What do they see? Also, you do a fine-tooth comb through your house. How's the caulk around all your bathtubs, your sinks look? Is it clean? Is it, if it looks a little, fix it. Are there any smells coming anywhere? Fix those. Make sure all your windows open and open easily. If you get some WD-40 and spritz down your sliding glass doors or your doors, make sure everything's working. Clear out your utility room. An inspector's going to need to get in there and clean it. If your furnace hasn't been serviced in a couple of years, do it. Do all the things you've been holding off on doing, because if you do that up front, you're paying wholesale. You go post-sale, and now you're paying retail. It's going to be inevitably more expensive for you and more stressful, because money means stress, to have to do something for a buyer later than doing it up front. So that was number 2. Number 3, we talked about documents, the importance of having as much information about the ages of everything in your house, your appliances, your water heater, your mechanicals, your roof, your windows. Buyers want to know, and sometimes they don't want to wait for that information. So have it all up front. Same if you're in a condo or a townhome association. Make sure that you have all of your documents, your minutes, your budgets, your information about reserves and projects, have all of it ready to go so you can hand it to people at a showing. And then we just wrapped up with Karen, one of our past clients who just moved, talking about the in-between and being comfortable that you have to take away as many objections and barriers to move and be okay living in the gray area. You may very well have to move into a short-term housing. We got a great referral for a place called Pavilion. So if you need a 3-month or less rental, unfurnished, but able to be furnished, because you need that in between, give us a shout and we'll get that information to you. And then our last stressor, which we're going to touch on just very briefly, was going to be dealing with if you get a property that's tenant occupied. This is probably a whole session on its own, but if you've got a tenant in your property, be very careful to make sure you're giving them the right notice, setting up a framework for showing so you know exactly when you're going to be showing the home, and having real clear discussions with them up front, and being very clear with buyers about when that property will be available for sale or available to close. So that was the other thing that we thought sometimes was really, really stressful. So thanks to my team for helping us come up with a lot of these tonight. I want to thank all of you guys. So that was a very short 5th thing. The other 4 were way more important. So hopefully you've taken some, if you're watching here, you've taken some really good tips and tricks away, some things to really make your home selling experience way less stressful. It's going to be stressful no matter what, but the more you can do upfront, It'll just clear the path for you later. So do it. We wish you all the best on your home sale. If we can be of help, message us, like, comment, share. Join us on our social media pages tomorrow night, Thursday. It is all about how do you choose the right and the best offer on your home. And Saturday morning, then we'll wrap up on our fourth and final event of this 2-week series, talking about just general things in the industry. We'll have a couple more special guests there too. So thanks for joining us. I'm Scott Curcio from Baird & Warner Real Estate, and we'll see you soon. Bye.